Mustafa, the first question I'd like to ask you is that in the UK, in the last 5-10 years, we've all seen how our climate is changing, and it appears to be changing very rapidly. We've had floods and we've had strong winds. Have there been any changes in the climate in Ghana in the last 10 years that you can describe?
In terms of the rain pattern, we used to have heavy rains, we used to have prolonged rain in terms of duration. But this time around, we don't actually get it. We get the rains all right, but not as heavy as it used to be. It comes even much more earlier than expected or very late. When that happens, you know, it has its own problems.
So, what impact does that, Shad, what impact does that have on farmers in Ghana and in this region in particular?
Farmers are now having less yield from their crops. Majority of people who are farmers, the irony is that they are not able to feed themselves. They are having to ration their food supply. Within 1 or 2 weeks, we have enough or more than necessary rainfall. Human habitations are destroyed as a result of the floods.
So when they lose their homes as a result of the floods, there was a very bad flood in Ghana, well across the whole of Africa in September. What do they do? Do they have to spend lots of time rebuilding their homes? How do ordinary people cope with that?
The government had to send an appeal to other developed economies to support by way of food supply. And because of limited resources, government has not been able to provide sufficient alternative housing for the people. So the people are having a very difficult as at now.
At home we have social security if we can't work. What would an ordinary person, an ordinary farmer do in Ghana, here in Bimbilla, if their crop fails?
The expectation is that a neighbor, a family member or whatever is also expected to support you. But of course the support will not be that adequate and even cannot be sustained. So
just to add to that, if you take an average household, you have many children within the household, and the children are heavily, they are the worst hit. Another aspect of it is that some households that are not lucky and they experience these food shortages, they resort to borrowing foodstuff from others who are lucky not to have their farms being destroyed. And the result is that you borrow against the next farming season. And you cannot predict whether in the next farming season you'll be able to pay back.
So is it true to say in very simple terms for the pupils at All Saints, excuse me, who will be listening to this, that global warming is affecting children's diets and global warming and climate change is making children hungry or hungrier in Ghana? Is that a true statement?
It's very
yes,
true.
The answer is yes.
Not only the children but adults. We see that the impact is heavier on the children.
We hear about the fact that there are already children dying elsewhere in the world because of global warming, because of the problems of farming. Has that happened here in northern Ghana?
One of such diseases that we have suffered, what they call CSM.
CSM, yes.
Cerebral spinal meningitis.
All right.
It's so devastating. It claims a lot of lives.
And is that related to malnourishment?
No, basically it's about heat.
All right.
Rising temperature.
Rising temperature.
Excessive rising temperature.
Abnormal temperatures. Right. Yes, so when the health directorate, among other things, they've been advocating for increase in water intake.
So having regular water supplies is very important. Do you mind if we move on now and to another question I would like to ask you? We are all very much aware that it's Europeans and Americans and the developed world who are using the energy and increasing their carbon emissions, and yet clearly people like yourselves or your communities are being affected by it. How do you feel about that?
Governments of the industrialized nations, they ought to come out with clear-cut policies as to how to address the impacts of global warming. So we would like the other governments to impress on the governments of United States and other countries so that all of them put their hands on deck to fight this kind of menace.
Thank you. And another thing I'd like to say to you, I know on behalf of all of the pupils at All Saints, they have a huge interest in the people in Bimbilla, and obviously they also care very much about global warming. We have an environmental group called War on Waste. Could I ask you to, well, if there is a message you would like to give, not so much to the United States government, but to the pupils of All Saints, what would you like people of between the ages of 11 and 16, what would you like our children to do about global warming?
I think that students of All Saints School, they also have a role to play in minimizing the impacts of global warming. First, the students should take it upon themselves to impress upon their parents to see the need for global warming to be controlled. The second aspect is that the students themselves, they should take it upon themselves to write articles in the media calling on everybody to adopt measures to check global warming. This is a small way that students of All Saints can do to minimize the impact of global warming in Africa and precisely Ghana.
To add to what he has just said, we have been taught the very importance of trees in our environment.
Trees, yes.
Trees. One other thing as students they can even do, or we can do collectively, is to embark on tree plantation.
Right.
If a tree is cut somewhere, a tree must be planted somewhere else. When the last tree dies, the last man dies.
Yes.